Alright guys, welcome back to F1 News. Toto and Susie Wolff are officially under investigation by Formula One's governing body, the FIA, on a potential compliance breach and conflict of interest involved. That was talked about a couple of days ago. Massive responses coming through from Susie Wolff, from Mercedes themselves. Even Hamilton gets involved. So do Formula One themselves, saying they vehemently think the accusations are completely false and are at odds with the FIA over this discussion. If this was found to be true, what would the implications be? Are there other conflict of interest in the sport that aren't getting considered by the FIA? Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. So this was a big talking point just the other day. Susie and Toto Wolff are here at the Autosport Awards and having a good time. And then just a couple of days later, Autosport are reporting that they are now under investigation by the FIA compliance department. So just to explain where this has come from and exactly what's going on here behind the scenes. This was talked about the other day. For some reason, a lot of these tweets are now deleted. But the Business F1 magazine, they did quite the report talking about potential conflict of interest with Toto Wolff and Susie Wolff. And let's just say Wolff receiving confidential information. We've talked before about the Shayla and Rao thing over the cost cap, over the floor stay approval in Canada, but the more recent controversy has been over Toto Wolff's relationship, of course, with his wife Susie, who has recently been appointed F1 Academy Director at the Formula One Group. Now, the rumour had it that he was in a meeting the other day with some of the other team principals, and Toto revealed information which he would not have known if it hadn't been his wife basically telling him. And this is the potential concern that other team principals have had. This was the rumour. It's not exactly for sure it's true. And Business F1 magazine, they spoke to some team principals, some of which have had previously, controversial relationships with Toto Wolff. Maybe they spoke to Horner, we don't know. But this was a lot of talk from other TPs. And the rumour in the reporting was that the FIA were thinking, well, do we want to investigate this? Are they just having a needle at Toto Wolff like they always do, or is there something legitimate behind this? As they say in the article, he's under increasing pressure. This is Ben Sulayem, the president of the FIA, to act on this, and team principals are said to be finding the situation increasingly uncomfortable, and one even labelled it intolerable. The main talking point was that Wolff immediately realised at this meeting that he'd overspoken, and his uncomfortable body language immediately roused the suspicions of some of the others. So then the theory is that either Susie Wolff is getting information from Formula One Group, she's then telling Toto, and then he can use that information for the advantage of, Mercedes as a competitive outfit, or from just a straight up business perspective. Or if Toto Wolff has something to send the other way, he can then mention that to Susie, pillow talk, whatever, and then it gets to Stefano Domenicali, and maybe it gets to the head of Formula One. That was the rumour that the team principals had been throwing around, and Business F1 magazine reported, and they weren't happy with this potential conflict of interest as they saw it. So when this report then dropped, the question was, alright, well, are the FIA going to investigate this or not? Are they going to look into it, or is it going to, be swept under the rug, as it were? And maybe it's not even true, but look, they're going to do an investigation. So the FIA say they have opened a compliant investigation into Toto Wolff and Susie Wolff. The FIA is aware of media speculation centred on the allegation of information of a confidential nature being passed to an F1 team principal, Toto Wolff, from a member of FOM personnel, Susie Wolff. The FIA compliance department is looking into the matter. So this is really quite something, and this caused obviously a massive stir, like, Toto and Susie Wolff under investigation on, compliance issues, conflict of interest, corruption grounds, like whatever you want to say. You can use various different terms in it. So immediately, loads of responses to this from Susie, from Mercedes, first of all. So let's look at Mercedes' response. And this is very interesting in terms of the fact they hadn't been informed. We know that Formula One and the FIA are at odds, kind of like inevitably, one of which is the governing body, the other of which are like the teams themselves. So of course there's going to be some degree of like conflict either way, but there's always been the theory over the last few years that could Formula One separate from the FIA? Do they need the FIA? Could they do the championship themselves? And it's stuff like this, and we'll actually see in a second, especially Formula One unhappy about this because they employ Susie Wolff, you know what I mean? So they're not happy about this either. It's not like they're like, oh yeah, go get him, FIA. Like if Toto Wolff's doing something dodgy, we're going to expose him. Like, they also want this to not be resolved in the way that it is. And the especially frustrating thing, I think, for these teams and for Formula One is that they were not communicated to about this. The FIA just launched this, and they weren't told until we saw it circulating in the media yesterday and reported by Autosport, among others. So Mercedes say, "We note the generic statement from the FIA this evening, which responds to unsubstantiated allegations from a single media outlet, and the off-record briefing which has linked it to the team principal of Mercedes-AMG Formula 1 team, Petronas, whatever they like to say. The team has received no communication from the FIA compliance department on this topic, and it was highly surprising to learn of the investigation through a media statement," which is very interesting, right? Because you'd think if they are announcing investigation into some things, Mercedes would be told, "Hey, we're investigating this. You want to provide us any information, feel free to do so." They didn't know, apparently, until we knew in the public. "We wholly reject the allegation in the statement and the associated media coverage, which wrongly impinges on the integrity and compliance of our team principal. As a matter of course, we invite full, prompt and transparent correspondence from the FIA compliance department regarding this investigation and its contents." The more severe response, though, no doubt comes from Susie Wolff herself, who says, well, she goes pretty hard on this one, and actually so hard that people think that it might even be I wouldn't say an admission of guilt, but see what you guys think. "I'm deeply insulted, but sadly unsurprised by the public allegations that have been made this evening. It is disheartening that my integrity is being called into question in such a manner, especially when it seems to be rooted in intimidatory and misogynistic behaviour," very interesting statement, "and focused on my marital status rather than my abilities. Throughout my career in motorsport, I have encountered and overcome numerous obstacles, and I refuse to let these baseless allegations overshadow my dedication and passion for Formula 1 Academy. As a woman in this sport, I have faced my fair share of challenges, but my commitment to breaking down barriers and paving the way for future generations to succeed remains unwavering. In the strongest possible terms, I reject these allegations." So Susie Wolff comes out with this. Hamilton also kind of quote tweets this on his Instagram story, and basically, you guys can see it right here. So quite the statement, really. And I think what caused a bit of a stir here is that not only is she rejecting the allegations, but she's implying that the reasons for their investigation are rooted in misogyny to some degree, which is, look, sure, there's a lot of men, I'm sure, that work at the FIA. Whether that is, whether that is the root of the reason why this is being investigated is another matter. And many people have said, and I totally get their perspective, that, if your first port of, recourse is to say, oh, it's misogyny, that's, maybe not the best argument. Then again, what can Susie Wolff say other than, I didn't do it, I reject these allegations? So, there's lots of points on either side of this. And to be honest, I do see her point when you think about other potential conflicts of interest in the sport, which the FIA do not seem to investigate for whatever reason. We'll kind of discuss those here in a second. But at the same time, people would still say, well, it's not the best defense. As I say though, of course, Formula 1 themselves are not happy with the way this has been handled. Sure, it also implicates them to some degree, right? Because, they employ Susie Wolff, so if she is lacking integrity or compliance or whatever they like to say, then it's also looking badly on them. But Formula 1 also say this public statement from the FIA was not shared with us in advance. We have complete confidence that the allegations are wrong. We have robust processes and procedures that ensure the segregation of information and responsibilities in the event of any potential conflict of interest. We are confident that no member of our team has made any unauthorized disclosure to a team principal, would caution anyone against making imprudent and serious allegations without substance. So, quite the response again from Formula 1. So, it's all going on, right? There's so much drama over this, and Formula 1, of course, themselves not happy with the implication that they've employed someone who, has breached their duty in some respects. At the same time, how do you go about proving this from either side? The team principals, apparently, according to this one media outlet, Business F1 magazine or whatever, say that, well, Toto Wolff said something that he shouldn't have known, and therefore he could only have known if Susie told him. But, how do you really get to the bottom of these discussions? Very difficult to say. The FIA are going to attempt an investigation. Whether that's really going to go that far, whether they can actually get anywhere, especially with the vehement denial from Susie Wolff, I'm sure Toto Wolff as well, and from Formula 1 themselves. And this has only heightened tensions with the FIA president, Mohammed bin Sulayem. This is even reported just now by Andrew Benson of BBC. A number of sources have told the BBC that if FIA President Ben Sulayem continues to act in a manner senior figures consider to be detrimental to the sport, F1 owners Liberty Media would lose patience and consider breaking away from the FIA. This has always been a potential threat that Formula 1 have, and look, do we need you guys to govern our sport? Why can't we just do it ourselves, or find somebody else to do it, or whatever? And it's stuff like this that, the FIA President Ben Sulayem, he's maybe been pressured by the team principals to look into this. He decides to, but in deciding to, he maybe doesn't inform Formula One or doesn't inform Mercedes in advance, which maybe is the right thing to do, because at the end of the day, Mercedes employee, or owner, I guess, employee Toto Wolff is involved, and Susie Wolff, employee Formula One, is involved. So maybe the right thing to do is not to inform them and say, look, we've got this investigation, we are the governing body, we're going to do what it's our duty to do. But at the same time, Formula One aren't going to be happy about this because it doesn't look good on their sport. One of their employees and one of their most senior figures and one most popular figures in the world of Formula One, Toto Wolff, are being investigated on allegations of compliance violations. So it doesn't look good for the sport, and it's not good for the value of the sport when this type of stuff is happening. But is it the right thing to investigate these things? I would say sure, as long as you investigate all potential competitive integrity, or let's say conflict of interest violations, which is what a lot of people have been talking about now. For example, I saw lots of tweets going around like this from Paola here, who's 1644, so I guess a Leclerc and Hamilton fan. Red Bull having two teams tick, Susie Wolff having a husband cross. And I know that a lot of people perceive things in this way, that, well, how come Red Bull for all these years get to have two teams in the sport? They get to own both of them. There's never competition on track between the two teams. If one of their drivers is ever stuck behind another one, they come through no problem. Of course, remember Zandvoort's 2022 when Tsunoda was very strangely sent out again with a car that wasn't well. All of a sudden the safety car occurs, and then it helps Verstappen in the race. Now, I don't think there was anything in that in terms of deliberate sabotage of an AlphaTauri car to help a Red Bull, but it's something that was talked about because it's a possibility. When you own two teams, there's always the option of doing something with one of your teams to benefit the other one. And it's a clear potential problem, and, there's various other reasons why Red Bull gain advantage doing this, but for many years it's been fine, and initially, sure, I mean, Formula One, back in the day when Toro Rosso was initially a thing, there weren't enough people willing to invest to make these things happen, so them owning two teams was fine. Nowadays, there is plenty of interest, and let's not forget Red Bull got an offer of $1.2 billion to sell AlphaTauri, but they didn't, they decided to keep it, but it's like, those things the FIA either don't seem to care about, or they're not going to consider the implications there. And there's other things as well. It's not just on Red Bull, but it's like, I totally get why people are saying investigate this but not that, like exactly why. The same thing as well that people say about Derek Warwick, right? If you guys don't know about steward Derek Warwick, so he's said various things over the years that have caused a bit of a stir, but the big thing that people say about Derek Warwick is that he owns a Honda dealership, I think in Jersey or something like that. So he has ties to Honda, who obviously partner with Red Bull and in the future will partner with Aston Martin. So it's like, there's always talk about this, and does it really affect his decision making in the steward's room? You would like to think no, but if he's tied to Honda and certain decisions may benefit Red Bull Honda over other teams, does he have a very small added incentive to make those decisions in that way? Maybe. And does that affect his decision making? Maybe not. But it's things like this that people bring up quite often as potential issues. And I'm not saying there is guaranteed violations from what Red Bull do. And also the thing with Red Bull is like, are they sharing information between the two teams? Like, are AlphaTauri or whatever they're going to be called going forwards able to get access to Red Bull information that other teams aren't? Is there any crossover sharing of information? They would say for sure, no, we do whatever's in the rules. And Derek Warwick will also say, well, no, I'm not biased by that association. I'm a steward and I follow the rules, and etc., etc. And both of those are maybe valid, but we don't know because the FIA don't investigate it. It's like the Susie Wolff, Toto Wolff thing is allegations that are now getting investigated. But there's plenty of other allegations and theories and potential conflicts of interest that don't get investigated. And if the FIA was to investigate everything and say, no, nothing's true, then fine. But I think that's what causes a bit of frustration, especially from even the Formula One side themselves. So who do you guys think is on the right on this? Of course, you don't really know for the time being, right? I mean, we're just going to have to wait and see what the FIA come up with. I think it's going to be very challenging for them to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there has been integrity violations here. But I think it just adds another spanner in the works, right? I mean, the off-season's barely begun and already we've got this massive drama going on. So I wonder if Toto Wolff will come out with any kind of statement and analysis as well. I wonder if we'll see anything from Christian Horner, who may have been one of the people who was leaking information to that business F1 magazine in the first place that kicked all this drama off. But very much intrigued to your thoughts, of course, in the comments section below. Just to close out, I thought it was kind of interesting. Fastest pit stops during the 2023 season. Red Bull had 9 of them. Ferrari had 7. It's interesting, actually, to see that Perez, and this has been the case historically as well, has much better, not much better, but like the fastest ever pit stops Red Bull do are for Perez. I think a lot of the reason why is it's all on like stopping on your markers, you know what I mean? If you stop perfectly where you're meant to stop, and some drivers are just better than this other drivers, then the team doesn't need to take the, you know, let's say 0.2 of a second to shift very slightly to the right or to the left. If you stop absolutely directly in front of your wheel gun, guys, that's going to save you a good few tenths. And it seems like certain drivers, such as Perez, are just really good at doing this, which is one of the reasons why that he gets, you know, stops in the 2.1s, 2.2s, 1.98, for example, and then Max only has one fastest stop of the season back in Zandvoort, of course, which is his home race, interestingly enough. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.